Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Black Living with Multiple Sclerosis Black Mothers broadcast on podcast on the Kubi TV network on YouTube. Thank you for joining me today. A little discombobulated, but everything's all good. I was trying to get some of my notes and maybe some resources together for you. Um, I have some from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and you should be able to see that number pop up on the screen. And that is also for the MS navigators that could help you. Um, some things are financial, some things are uh, general monies to help you along the way in your journey. Some people need some kind of assistance that would help them go back to school, um, living. Maybe you might need a device or two. You can reach out to them and see what they can do for you. They are pretty good. Sometimes you just need, sometimes you might just need to be in touch with a doctor. Sometimes you might just need to be pointed in the right direction on how to go about certain things. So that is a number there, 1-800-344-4867 for the MS Navigator. Okay. Like I said, everyone, welcome here to Black Mother Living with Multiple Sclerosis, where we left off last week. I had already been diagnosed and trying to move forward with this diagnosis at my age of 17, going on to 18. Um, I had kind of had a talk with myself, knowing that this is what it was going to be, this is what my diagnosis was. Um, I kind of said to myself, well, if I'm going to move forward, I need to be able to recognize what my body is going through. I need to be able to recognize and how to filter um, certain things that were being told to me, where the positions were for them to be in my life. How can I move forward with my life knowing that this is what it is? As you can imagine, being that age, you usually just want to worry about the next day, maybe getting up for school, maybe getting up for work, what you're going to wear to the next party, things of that nature. Some of us, those are the things, going on in our mind. Um, and I have to tell you, being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, my mind was always moving. Um, my thoughts were always a mile a minute. Um, and not to say that I overthought, but sometimes I did. I could get carried away with my thoughts at that time. Um, and I would have to learn how to calm myself and kind of bring myself down, if that is, if anyone can understand. I would overthink to the point where, um, goodness, is this going to happen? Is this really going to be my life? Is this really going to be what it is? And oh my gosh, I have to prepare myself. And that that was the thoughts going through my mind, to prepare myself for the worst. Not having any kids, not being with someone intimately, as far as getting married, building a family, because I don't want them to go through what I'm going through. I don't want to be their baggage, um, if that makes any sense. And I'm sure that with any kind of disease that you find out you're having, any kind of pressure that you're going through. I mean, me as the person I was at that age, I thought about others, but then I had to think about myself. And not to say that you are selfish, and not to say that I had to be selfish, but sometimes you do, because with that comes um, responsibility and knowing with yourself, within yourself, that listen, there are things that I might not be able to do for safety purposes. There are things that I wouldn't put myself or anyone else in harm's way, i.e., my driving. Um, I didn't have a problem with the driving at first. Um, my vision was always 20/20 at that time. I had full function of, or most of the function of, my legs and my feet, and I didn't have a problem with things like that. But I thought to myself that when these things start to happen, and when I decide to, always having in my mind that the cutoff age was 25. When these things start to happen, what am I going to do? Should I start preparing myself from now? And I went along with, talking myself into it. And I did. I made sure that uh, everyone that I needed to reach out to, I did. I became comfortable with having people drive me around. I became comfortable with taking taxis. Um, Part of my medical insurance includes car services to get me back and forth to the appointments. Um, and this kind of started when my kids were, let's see, Justin, my son, had to be around 10, and my daughter had to be about 5. They have a 5-year difference. Um, and it was hard sometimes. Not only here in Pennsylvania, but in New York, when it was only mm, Justin and my daughter had not been born yet. I still had, um, I still had Accessoride. I don't know if anyone knows what an Accessoride is in New York City. It's a cab service, bus service for people that have, or that are in wheelchairs that need the service. Well, at the time, I looked like there was nothing wrong with me. I had my son, I had my daughter, she was a baby. And before I even had her, I was approved for the service. And with being approved, you know, people that drive taxis, and I have to tell you, a lot of the times I was able to get this car service, have someone drop me off, maybe wait, which was not part of what they did, come back and pick me up, not part of what they did, just because my disability had not taken hold of me as yet. Um, and like I said, I was a regular young woman. I knew how to conduct myself well with others and talk to people, talk to men, and it's not to say that men are simple or they're stupid. But if if you have the ideation that, well, this person has a disability, they need me more than I need them. The person that has the disability but has not been, how would you say, afflicted with the disability at that point, it's not really on them at that point. Um, Gives you a little wiggle room to take advantage, I guess. And I think for the most part, that's what it was. Um, but again, like I said, moving forward, moving here to Pennsylvania, that was not the case because now I am actually in the wheelchair. I am definitely, my children are older. They can talk for themselves. And, you know, I don't really know anyone here in Pennsylvania. So I just kind of, I've done what I needed to do, made sure that all my responsibilities were handled. Um, Whether I was going to be in a wheelchair or not, I knew that I needed insurance. I needed to know people. I needed to have myself set up. I have a social worker that helps me very much. I have a coordinator that helps me very much. Um, and like my mom and my grandmother would say, you never know who you might meet, who you might need. And I think I lived by that motto. And I think it served me pretty well. You're always nice to others, and you always be respectful because when you're going up, it's the same thing going down. You never know who you might need going down. Okay, so moving forward after that, um, I've been diagnosed. I'm at a young age. I've known, I'm to the point where I know if something is wrong with my body. I know if I'm having an exacerbation. Um, I I had a little hiatus in between having my first or second exacerbation to the next. Now, between that time, I still worked. I had my son. I still drove. I was very active with friends and families, and um, I knew what it was that I wanted to get done before I was struck down with him. No, let me stop. Before I was incapacitated for the most part. I knew what it was that I wanted to have done. I wanted to travel. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to have children. Um, and for the most part, I've done that. I've traveled. I've got my passport. I went over to London. I went over to Paris, and um, I've traveled to my homeland, Honduras. I have not been to Trinidad or Panama, which I'm still hoping to get there. Looking at plenty cruises, looking at a way to travel with the wheelchair now. Um, but I think that when there's a will, there's a way all the time. I have always tried to look at the other side of things. I've always tried to be the person that does not think of the bad, but always the good. I think sometimes I'm a bit, I am realistic. So I know there's always a bad that comes with the good. Um, And I can get behind that. I can agree to disagree with others. Um, but having multiple sclerosis has not stopped me from doing the things that I wanted. I will say it made me take a back seat to certain things because you don't want to be the bother, you don't want to be the headache. There are some functions that I have not gone to. There are family members and friends that I have not seen. Um, Maybe because I felt some kind of way about multiple sclerosis, not really knowing how the other person felt. I kind of took myself out of the equation, um, not knowing if the other person felt the way that I felt. I've done that with family, I've done that with relationships, I've done that for maybe the past 10 to 15 years of my life. Um, I am to the point now where my kids are older, they deserve a lot better than what it used to be as far as mingling with family, having friends. There was a lot of hesitation with me even allowing myself to go back and forth to New York, where I was born and raised, because in New York City, living there, you need to be in it, if that makes any sense. You need to be in it. You need to be in the grind. You need to be able to go back and forth on the train, on the bus, jump in the taxi, whatever it might be. You can't do that when you have two kids and a disability. Because at a certain time, I was able to have not a wheelchair, but a scooter, a cane, and you can put these things in the car. I was able to break down my scooter, one, two, three, get it in the trunk, and still be able to have one of the kids on my hip, put them in the car, or have my oldest help me with these things. Um, as I got older and the more aggressive the multiple sclerosis got, I wasn't able to do that anymore. It was even hard to get into the scooter because a scooter is not like a wheelchair. A wheelchair, you just sit down in it. A scooter, you have to get in it. You have to put your leg around the control part of it and kind of ride it like a bicycle. Um, Whereas you don't have to do that with a wheelchair. Just sit down. Um, but as I as my MS got a little more aggressive, um, so did the way I thought. Um, I thought that, well, if I'm going to need this, then I need to get on the ball because I don't want to be left out wanting. I didn't want to be the one looking, how can I didn't want to look crazy. I didn't want to look like in need. I didn't want anyone to look at me out of pity, like, oh, poor thing, she doesn't even have. And that could be a very big problem for some people. It took me a lot, I know, to have, for me to break down my pride a little bit. So when I came to Pennsylvania, it was easier. One, I didn't know anyone. Two, you don't have to keep up with any kind of Joneses. You don't have to be in the grind of it. It was a slower pace. Now, fine for me, that was completely fine for me. For my kids, the school system was fine, but after school and as they get older, it's like they needed more. They needed something more social. They needed something, they needed more involvement with family and friends. They had friends. They had some one, one or two family members, but it wasn't something where they had everyone here that they needed. And to this day, I don't regret having them here. I do feel funny sometimes because I know that there are certain things that have passed me by, also with the children. There are certain things that has passed them by, and they as kids, they do what their parents do. They do what they see around them. Now, they're not. I have beautiful children, but they are children. They need to flourish. They need to do things. They need to learn for themselves sometimes, and for the most part, they have. Um, I wouldn't take back the way that I came to Pennsylvania. Let me say that over. I wouldn't take back the fact that we were in Pennsylvania. The education is good. Um, I didn't have to worry about my son going outside and getting shot. Didn't have to worry about boys all in my daughter's face. Um, but I still feel like they needed more. Um, I still felt like they should have had more friends and family around them. Because my kids are quiet, they're to themselves, and I think that's just because we've been here in Pennsylvania by ourselves. Um, and the way I was when I got here with my young children, my son, was um, we don't know that person. The person is a stranger. We don't talk to strangers. To the point where my son would, in Pennsylvania, you can say hi and keep walking and it won't be a problem. My son would look at me and say, Mommy, do you know that person? That's a stranger. Why are you talking to strangers? And I had to I couldn't tell him that he was wrong because I've been telling him this for so long. Um, and that it had some truth to it. Like, well, yeah, why are you talking to strangers? But you can't help but be polite and nice to some people here because they are very polite here in Pennsylvania. Okay. Now also with my children, uh, when they were younger, it was easy to accommodate their needs. I was still, like I said, I was still walking around, still had my cane, I was able to drive. Um, so it was easy to take them to the park. It was easy to take them to the pool. It was easy to keep them entertained, take them to little plays, take them to water parks or things of that nature. And especially, I had this scooter that I was able to break down and put in my car. So we did a lot of things as they were younger. Um, I went from the cane to the walker to the scooter. I was still able to get into the school, talk to teachers. Um, but I couldn't help having this feeling that um, I needed to do more before, my clock, I felt my clock winded all the way down, meaning before my disability got any worse, I needed to do more. So here we are, we fast forward, into COVID times. We're going to fast forward into COVID times. Okay, COVID started. Um, a lot of MS medications. Again, I had said this before, they have to break down your body for it to take a hold of your immune system. And with COVID being the way that it was, um, I had to, I was not on any medications at that time because the medication that I was on, like I said, it had broken down my body so much that I was more prone to falls. I was more prone to bruising. A lot of things were going on. Um, and the doctor at the time did not want to make my immune system any more compromised, um, to where they had to break me down even further to get the medication to work, knowing that we had COVID. Now, let's throw the kids into the mix. Um, I'm worrying about medications, I'm worrying about COVID, I'm worrying about my family having COVID. So now the schools are closing, which I'm figuring is good for me because now we can just all do, they can just do homeschooling. It was very good in the beginning for my son, but after that first year, it became a challenge because now I have to wait. I was going to school pretty much. I had to make sure that he was awake. I had to make sure that he was in the class. I had to make sure that the computer was charged. I had to make sure he did his work from the day before. Um, so I definitely felt like I was in school. Now I'm dealing with school, I'm dealing with health on my part, his part, my daughter's part. Um, and we're dealing with finances. Now, the only good thing I could say about finances is everyone knows that they got their stimulus checks and they got this and they got that. Um, Me, on the other hand, I was a little nervous because I got Social Security. There are certain things you cannot do with Social Security. You cannot apply for this, that, and the third because they considered at that time Social Security as a benefit. Now, I did not understand why because in my thought, my brain, Social Security is something that you paid into, not a benefit that they give you voluntarily. Um, So we are going through the COVID times. A lot of family members, they're getting sick. Some family members and friends are getting sick and dying. Um, some are being hospitalized. There was a lot of things going on. And again, this comes up. My children are here. I'm here. Our family is New York, Maryland, um, Philly, you name it. Um, and I feel like they're here in Pennsylvania and they needed that support system that I've always had. I've had a support system because I lived in New York. My family is from New York. I've always had a support system where I can have someone come and see me, someone come pick me up. We go out, we have lunch, or if we just want to just sit down in the living room and talk, or in the dining room. Um, and my kids didn't have that, and I just, a lot of the times that would replay and that would replay, and I'm always asking them if they're okay, if they're good, and you know, being a mother, a black mother with a son and a daughter, and knowing that you have an illness, you always feel in the back of your head like, if it wasn't for me, they would have more. If it wasn't for me being sick, they could do more. They would know how to drive by now. They would be out and about with friends because it would be easy for you to get them back and forth. So now, my kids, now that they're older, we have these talks. I ask them how they feel. And they always tell me, Mommy, I love you and I wouldn't change anything. And sometimes I think that they're telling me these things that I want to hear, to try to make me feel better about the whole situation. It helps, but I always have that feeling in the back of my mind that they want more. I feel like they deserve more. Um, and my kids, like I say, wonderful kids. My kids are wonderful. Um, my son at this point is a little taller than me. He's towering over me. My daughter is about almost probably an inch or two off, almost my height. I'm 5'6". That used to always be an argument with me and my friends, my family members, that I was 5'7". And I still think I was 5'7". I have to find it somewhere in all the medical papers that I have, because they weigh you, they take your height, they take your blood pressure. I know that years ago I was 5'7". I think I shrunk, which is not that is not something that could not happen. I could have possibly shrunk. But now I am 5'6". My daughter is almost my height. My son, like I said, is towering over me, and just sometimes they hug me. My son will kiss me on the forehead, or just to say that they love me. My kids are very kind. They're loving. Um, Being a mother with multiple sclerosis is different. And I think my kids understand more than I give them credit for. They understand because they see and hear everything. But I have kids that respect me, respect the situation, always willing to learn, always wanting to know, always there. Um, by all means, my kids are not. Um, how would you say? My kids are not people that you can take advantage of, but I would say that they are soft-hearted, and sometimes they can be passive, and I'm grateful sometimes that they can be passive, because they have learned from me to advocate for yourself. Um, it took them a long time, since being here, since growing in Pennsylvania, to understand what it was that I was always concerned about. Being a black mother here in Pennsylvania can sometimes go left. Being a single mother can sometimes go left. Definitely being a single black mother with multiple sclerosis can go left because there are certain things that I felt at times that I could not do. Um, and that did include um, talking up for my kids, that included speaking my mind, and not because I didn't want to, but when my son and my daughter got old enough to say, "Hey, mommy, you don't have to do that. No, don't do that," because they didn't want us to be looked at a certain way. Me personally, I didn't care. I'm from New York. I told them, I said, listen, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. Whether you talk up now or you talk up later, I prefer now. And I always let them know you have to say what is on your mind, respectfully, of course. There is no reason for you to sit anywhere, be anywhere, for anyone to tell you something that you do not agree with. There is a way of getting your point across respectfully. My son, my son is he played football in high school for a little while. Um, and I have to say, in the town that we lived in, some people, you know, they kind of, yeah, he's in football, and oh yeah, we're gonna do this year and this that and third. But then there were some teachers and some people that would say, oh, just because you think you're in football, that doesn't give you a free pass. Understandable, but at no time has my son asked or even notioned for a free pass. And then there were the others that, well, I need to speak to your mom. And that's quite all right. Just give her a call. No, she needs to come in. We all know that I cannot. It would be physically um, impossible at a certain time for me to come in. Everything was set up on the phone. But my kids, them knowing that sometimes, in the beginning, I should say, in the beginning, it was hard for them to speak up. And I had to let them know if you're not comfortable with something, you have to say what's on your mind. Push comes to shove, I'm going to make it in. Someone wants to see me, I'm coming in. I don't care if I have to get someone to push me in a manual wheelchair from the house to the school. And again, like I said, I overthought. I thought about the things that I needed to happen. I knew at some point um, I was not going to be able to drive back and forth, i.e., I moved us right across the street from the school. The way their schools are set up, elementary, middle school, and high school, one big campus. And I fixed us across the street from the school because, one, if and when I stop driving, they can walk across the street. My daughter's school was a little further. They had to do a little walk through a little lot, and my son was able to do that. Um, there are a lot of things that now I can sit down and think about. Well, maybe it could have gone either way. It could have been something that, if we were still in New York, who's to say what would have happened? My mom, she's no longer with us. She was a big help for me in the beginning. Who's to say that suppose we got stuck in New York? I mean, there are a lot of things that you think about having multiple sclerosis, having any kind of disease, and having children, having a family. I think that's one of the reasons why I put myself in the position that I put myself in. And not having any more kids, not getting married, um, not being in a relationship. And I mean, with saying all these things, now that I'm listening to myself, a lot of questions could arise for some people. Um, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have a husband. Um, so a lot of people would think to themselves, well, do you have sex? How does that work? I have heard so many things that oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm even. I've heard so many things about sex and lack thereof. Uh, but I mean, it doesn't bother me, especially again, I have children. I don't feel that it is appropriate for me as a mother of two, boy and girl, for one, my son to see me with men, my daughter to see me with men. I felt like we were okay. I was okay. I don't have a problem. Um, it doesn't bother me. I already knew what it was going to be hitting for when I got here. And to tell you the truth, there is a little bit of um, when you move out of New York and you come somewhere else, and if you're not already pre coupled up from New York, the attraction to someone that is not from New York, it's not always there because you're used to what you're used to. Um, Now, if it ever happens, I'm not saying that I won't be open to love. But as my kids were younger and they did see everything and the way my children were with the attitudes that they have, which was not really an attitude, the way they loved and they were kind to people. Um, Me, like my mom, and like I did, sometimes I still do, I overthink things. And for me to meet someone and start over, my kids have to get to know them, my family has to get to know them. I mean, there's always so many different things going on in your mind, um, that you don't really and truly. I just didn't want to be bothered. Um, I I like men. I love men. I love being in love. That's a beautiful thing. But there are things differently that are going on in my life that I didn't even I've never considered um in that shape or fashion, felt that I needed to put myself first. Um and when you sit down and you think about it, me putting myself first, I would have to be okay for everyone else to be okay. Um, and now that I say it out loud, I hear it, I receive it, I can deal with it. I can deal with it now, opposed to some years ago when I was younger. It would just have me spiraling. Like I think about it and it's like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? I'm in a point in my life that right now, if anything happens, I do find someone, my children will be okay with it. maybe. Um, and I would be okay with it depending on, the love that is given and the love that's received. I mean, women, we deal with a lot as being single mothers. So just think about it, single mothers with some kind of disease, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, lupus, um, and you have children, single mothers, and you have more. I mean, one child is enough, but two children, three children, four children, things happen, and the only thing I can say is you still have to live your life. You still have to work things out. You still have to be prepared for the best news, the worst news. Okay, there always has to be a plan. You always have to be ready. And I feel like having multiple sclerosis, having children, being a single mother, um, I always felt like if I stayed ready, I would never have to get ready. And that is one of my biggest mottos now. If you stay ready, you never have to get ready. And that's where I was in my life. Now, um, I think that I started thinking this way maybe a couple of years back, uh, to kind of push my kids. I always tell them, I said, my goodness, you guys are so comfortable. You move like molasses. And but if you stayed ready, you would never have to get ready. And that would leave me not to be the way that I am, because I feel like I'm always pushing. I'm always telling them, come on, come on, come on, come on. I think that's the New York in me and the Pennsylvania in them. They just move the way they want to move, which is not a bad thing. But when you're trying to get yourself together, get the kids together, make sure the car is together, make sure there's gas, make sure it can be a lot. And now that we're talking about getting it together, I have embarked on a whole new journey where I've decided to start driving again. Um, and when I say driving again, meaning I'm almost finished the process where I would have to go and do my driver's license over. Hopefully, I can keep you posted. Maybe I can let you guys in on a little bit that I'm doing visually. If my instructor is with it, I will definitely see if I can record some of the accessories that you need to drive, how the process goes. Um, I can tell you a little bit. The process of me putting the accessibility um, parts in my car goes as follows. I have to take something that is like a permit test. You have to identify the signs. You have to show that your response, just in case something jumps out at you, is there. Um, and they hook you up with all these gears they put inside your car, and you learn how to drive with them. Like I said, I am hopefully going to be able to show you guys a little bit of what's going on with that part of my life. I'm excited, and hopefully, we'll get it all done before the end of the year so I won't have to drive in the snow. But we'll see how it goes. Um, and also with that, different ventures that I'm trying to get myself into. Um, Hopefully everything will work out the way that we need it to work out, and I'll be able to move forward from there. Uh, with that being said, um, I think this has been a really good show. I think that um, I think that I am getting my point across, and hopefully we will be able to move forward in every episode of this show, and I'll be able to discuss with you guys any part of what it is to have multiple sclerosis, as a black mother, as a black female. Now, I want to just make sure everyone can see the MS Navigator number at the bottom of the screen, 1 800 344 4867. They can help you with finding doctors, finding medicines, maybe finding some financial assistance for medicines. Um, some of them can be pretty expensive. They can help you with just as simple as the getting around part, um, for yourself, for your family. They can give you the resources that every person with MS should absolutely have. They can let you know about the MS walks. Um, I think I've probably only ever done one. And they can put you in the right positions to learn more about your multiple sclerosis if you're just being diagnosed. If you've been living with multiple sclerosis for some time, there is always something to learn about this disease. And I'm hoping that with my show, that this podcast, I'm hoping that it will help someone. It's definitely helping me. It's letting me express how I've felt and how I am feeling for some years now that I've been dealing with multiple sclerosis. So I have I have definitely let everyone know. I'm so sorry. I have definitely let everyone know what is going on right now with me. And again, I have I have definitely had some, how would you say? I have had some very different talks and relationships and things of that nature when it comes to multiple sclerosis. I have tried to explain it the best that I can. Some people still think that here in Pennsylvania, some people still think when they see me, um, that I've been in a car accident. And it's so strange. You know, some people can be very friendly, some people can be just nosy. Um, some still come up to me, maybe in the supermarket. You're still dealing with that car accident. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'll definitely pray for you, not knowing that I have MS. It's not for me to tell everyone that I have MS, but it has definitely been something different. Um, I don't see any reason for me to go around and tell everyone that I'm dealing with multiple sclerosis. But, I mean, just to correct some people, but I am definitely learning to live with this multiple sclerosis. It has changed my life. It has changed maybe the lives of the people that know me, that love me. Um, it's something. It's definitely different, and I just know that. I mean, the more information that I can give, or the more that I can talk about the things that I go through, it can help someone else. It definitely, like I said, it helps me to release some of the tension. It helps me to not only inform the people that I know and I love, um, it helps me let them know that you can ask me a question. Um, I personally think there's no such thing as a stupid question. The stupid question is the one that you don't ask. Tell my kids this all the time. So those that know me and those that love me, you can always call me. Some people um, reached out to me like, "Hey, I didn't know you were doing a podcast." I've had that. Um, I've had that phone call with several people, and I actually enjoy. Not that I have to explain it, but I enjoy letting them know that yeah, this is what's going on with me. This is what has always been going on with me. Um, it lets me know that I'm still a thought on their mind. I'm still a factor in the lives of, and I am, that I'm loved. And that's always a good thing. It's always a blessing. Um, but as we move forward, as I move forward with my children, there is always something to learn. There's always a new question to ask. Um, I'm always open minded to family members, to friends, sometimes to people that see me and that do ask the question. I have a coworker of mine. I didn't even know that they knew I was doing a podcast. I'm happy that they know, um, but then I don't want them to feel like, oh, she has multiple sclerosis. Well, she wouldn't understand, or, you know, we can't say this or we can't say that. No, you can say anything. I am not easily offended. I know how to talk to people, I know how people should talk to me. I do not take offense to a lot of things because this is new for someone else not knowing me. This is new for some of my family members that didn't even know what I was going through. So I'm glad for this podcast because it helps open up the door of communication for the people that did not know and that want to know or have been wondering what's going on. Where have you been? Um, Again, thank you for joining me today. Um, a Black mother living with multiple sclerosis on the Kubi TV network on YouTube. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that you will join me again next week, Sunday at 4 p.m., the same place. And we can continue this journey. I can continue my journey knowing that someone is there with me. And God bless to everyone. Thank you so much. And everyone, have a good night.